Have you ever felt like someone loved you, but not for who you really are? She smiled. She listened. She said you were special, but deep down something felt off. It was like she was looking at you, but seeing someone else. Carl Jung warned us, people don't fall in love with you. They fall in love with their idea of you, and most of the time, they don't even realize they're doing it. That's why love can feel so confusing, so unstable. One day you're everything she ever wanted. The next, you're too much, or not enough, and you don't know what changed. But here's the truth, you were never being seen. You were being imagined. Let's break this down. It starts so subtly, you don't even notice it. She looks at you with excitement in her eyes, not judgment, not doubt, just potential. You feel chosen, seen, and that feeling, it's powerful. She says you're different, says you're the kind of man she's been waiting for. And deep down, you want to believe her. So you try to live up to it. You try to become the man she sees, the one she wants, the one she believes you could be. And without realizing it, you step into a role. You don't speak up when something bothers you. You act stronger than you feel. You agree to things you're unsure about because you don't want to ruin the connection. It doesn't feel like lying. It feels like love. It feels like effort, like something good. But over time, it starts to feel heavier. You don't feel relaxed anymore. You feel like you're constantly managing her mood, trying not to make mistakes, trying to keep the peace. And then one day, she pulls away, not loudly, not all at once, just little by little, less warmth, less excitement, less interest. And you ask yourself, what changed? What did I do wrong? But the truth is, you didn't do anything wrong. You just stopped playing the part. She wasn't in love with you. She was in love with the story she built in her mind, the image she projected onto you. And the moment your actions no longer fit that image, she started rewriting the scene, not with you, but around you. Carl Jung explained this clearly. He said when people aren't conscious of their inner world, they project it onto others. They don't see reality, they see a mirror. And you became that mirror, reflecting back her fantasy, until the reflection stopped matching. And then it was over, not because of who you are, but because you were never truly seen to begin with. Every man wants to feel chosen. From a young age, you're taught that being picked by a girl, by a partner, by anyone means you matter. It feels like proof that you're good enough, that you're doing something right. So when a woman shows interest in you, when she praises you, when she says, "I've never met someone like you before," you hold on to that feeling. And without noticing it, you start chasing it. You want to keep her happy. You want to keep the connection strong, so you adjust. You play along. You make yourself easier to love, less difficult, less emotional, less honest. And this isn't because you're weak. It's because deep down, you believe that being loved by her will finally prove your worth. Carl Jung called this a dangerous illusion. He said, when you don't know your own value, you will look for someone else to define it for you. And the person you give that power to will also have the power to take it away. So you perform, you adapt, you become the version of yourself that gets approval, that gets affection. But here's the problem. When you shape yourself around what someone else wants, you lose the core of who you are. And over time, that starts to show. You become quieter. You stop expressing your needs. You say yes when you want to say no. And eventually, the connection begins to feel fake, not just to her, but to you too, and she senses it. Women are deeply intuitive. They may not always understand it, but they can feel when a man is not standing in his truth. And that's when she starts to pull away, not because you were too honest, but because you weren't honest enough. You weren't rooted, you were reacting. And the hard truth is, she didn't fall out of love with you. She fell out of love with the version of you that was never real to begin with. There comes a moment, quiet, unexpected, when everything starts to feel different. She doesn't laugh at your jokes like she used to. Her messages get shorter. Her eyes wander during conversations. She seems there, but not really present. You sense it, and it hurts, because you've given your best. You've tried to be everything she needed. You've worked so hard to keep the relationship together, and yet it's slipping. You ask yourself, why is this happening? What changed? But deep down, a part of you already knows the fantasy is breaking. Carl Jung explained that when a person projects their inner image onto someone else, it can only last for so long. Reality always catches up. No one can play a perfect role forever. Eventually, your real thoughts come out, your real feelings, your real boundaries, your real pain. And when those things don't match her fantasy, the illusion starts to crack. You begin to feel punished, not for doing something wrong, but for being yourself. That's when the confusion sets in. You start to doubt your worth. You think, maybe I'm not enough, or maybe I messed this up. But here's the truth. You didn't fail her. You just stopped pretending. You stopped fitting into the invisible role she created in her head, a role you never agreed to but tried to fill anyway. And now that you've outgrown that role, she doesn't know what to do with you anymore. It's not that she's cruel, it's that she was in love with a story, and you were just part of the casting. Jung warned us, if a person does not face their own unconscious beliefs, they will force others to carry them. You were carrying her expectations, her hopes, her ideal image of the perfect man. But that weight wasn't yours to hold. And the day you set it down is the day the story started to end. Not because of failure, but because truth finally stepped in. When she walks away, it doesn't just break your heart. It shakes your identity. You're not just grieving the relationship. You're grieving who you were in it. Because for so long, being with her gave you a sense of purpose, of value, of direction. And when that's gone, you're left with silence. A silence that feels unbearable. You start questioning everything. Was any of it real? Did she ever love me? Did she ever really know me? But the deeper question, the one that's harder to face, is this: did you know yourself? Carl Jung said that most people don't live full lives. They act out patterns. You weren't just her partner, you were playing a part. And when that part ended, you didn't know what was left. That's why it feels like a piece of you is missing, because you tied your identity to her love, her approval, her attention. Without realizing it, you gave her the power to define your worth. And now, without her gaze on you, you feel invisible. But let me tell you something that Jung understood better than anyone. That emptiness you feel, that pain, that silence, that lost feeling, it's not a punishment, it's an invitation. It's your chance to finally meet the parts of yourself that you've been avoiding, the parts you covered up, held back, softened down, just to be accepted. Now, without the need to perform, you can finally ask the real questions. Who am I without her story? Without her script, without needing to be chosen? It's terrifying, but it's also the beginning of real freedom. Because only when you face that emptiness can you begin to fill it with something true, not her version of you, your own. The pain doesn't go away quickly, it lingers. You carry it in your chest, your thoughts, your sleep. But slowly, something begins to change. You start asking deeper questions, not about her, but about you. Why did I try so hard to be accepted? Why did I ignore the moments when I felt small? Why was I so afraid of being alone? This is where Carl Jung's work becomes powerful. He called it individuation, the lifelong process of becoming whole. Not perfect, not impressive, just real. You stop chasing approval. You stop trying to be the ideal man. You start facing the parts of yourself you buried for years. The sadness, the fear, the insecurity, the anger. And instead of pushing them away, you begin to listen. You realize these parts of you weren't weaknesses. They were truths. Truths you were too afraid to feel when you were busy performing. This is the turning point. The moment when your healing begins. Not because you figured everything out, but because you've stopped running from yourself. You understand now. You can't build a real connection with someone else until you've built one with yourself. And when you do, when you start to feel whole, even in silence, you stop needing anyone to complete you. You don't chase, you don't beg, you don't perform. You just stand, grounded, clear, and more alive than you've ever been. And that's when your life truly begins. Let's be honest. Most men never make it to this point. They don't go through the pain. They don't sit with the silence. They don't ask the hard questions. They jump into the next relationship or distract themselves with work, pleasure, noise, anything to avoid the stillness. Because stillness is scary. It forces you to see things you've been ignoring for years. Carl Jung called this the confrontation with the shadow, the hidden part of yourself that you pretend isn't there. Your doubts, your fear of not being good enough, your guilt, your need to be validated. And for many men, it's easier to stay asleep, to keep playing the role, to keep chasing attention, affection, praise, hoping that one day someone will finally love them in a way that makes them feel whole. But here's the truth. No one can do that for you. Not your partner, not your friends, not your success. Because wholeness isn't given to you. It's built by you. Jung said, "He who looks outside dreams. He who looks inside awakens." The man who never looks inside will always be chasing something that doesn't exist. And even if he gets the woman, the attention, the life he thought he wanted, he'll still feel hollow. That's why this work matters. Because once you've faced your own shadow, you're no longer controlled by it. You stop living on autopilot. You stop bending yourself just to fit into someone else's world. You begin to live your own life, your real life, the one that was waiting for you all along. Most men confuse strength with control. They think being strong means never showing emotion, never being vulnerable, never needing anyone. But that isn't strength, that's fear, disguised. Carl Jung taught that real strength isn't about having a hard shell. It's about having a strong core. It's not about being untouchable. It's about being so deeply rooted in who you are that nothing can shake you, not even heartbreak. And this kind of strength doesn't come from hiding your pain. It comes from facing it. It comes from sitting with your anger without letting it turn into bitterness. It comes from acknowledging your sadness without letting it define you. It comes from admitting your fear and still choosing to move forward. Most men never experience this. They think power is about being wanted, or being in control, or being successful. But all of that can be taken away in a moment. Real power is being okay with who you are, even when no one is watching, even when no one is clapping, even when you're alone. Because once you stop needing to prove anything to anyone, you become free. And that freedom, it's what makes you unshakable. It's what makes you finally ready, not just for love, but for truth. There comes a moment, after the pain, the silence, the self-work, when something shifts. You stop chasing, you stop needing, you stop trying to be impressive, not because you've given up, but because you've woken up. You're no longer looking for someone to complete you. You're no longer desperate to be chosen. You've chosen yourself. You understand now that love isn't about playing a part. It's not about being perfect. It's not about being everything to someone else. It's about meeting another person as two whole beings. No masks, no scripts, no fantasies. Carl Jung said that real relationships only begin once both people have faced their own unconscious. Because until then, it's not love, it's projection. And when two people have done the work, the real work, they don't cling to each other out of fear. They connect from a place of strength, from a place of truth. So if you've made it this far in the video, you're already ahead of most. You've stopped scrolling, you've started listening, and maybe, just maybe, you've started remembering who you really are. So here's what you do next. Don't stop here. Sit with this. Let it challenge you. Let it change you. And if this message spoke to something deep inside you, share it with a friend, a brother, someone who's still stuck in the performance. Because if one man wakes up, he helps others wake up too. Like this video, subscribe for more, and never forget, you were never meant to play a role. You were meant to live.